Good,
Welcome
brother.
to the Unshuffled podcast. We are the Lohmeyer brothers, and we push pause on the a la carte style of listening to music on modern music streaming platforms. We believe that artists put songs in the order they put them in on the album for a reason, and we sit down with the entire album and virtual CD books since there aren't jewel cases anymore. And we listen to the albums and we tell you what we think about them, just like we did in the 90s. I am Steven, the middle brother. Musical bona fides is I sang Love Shack in the karaoke tent at the 1991 Greater Hartford Chili Fest. And Jeff, my older brother, what are your musical bona fides?
What did I do? My first show was the Spin Doctors, where I crowd surfed over and over and over again. So just had people lifting me up, grabbing my ass as I went across. I was hot
I
back then.
remember you coming back from that and being totally.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I did crowd surfing. Actually, my second show was also Spin Doctors, where I crowd surfed at Riverside. I am, as you can tell, I'm anti-sleeves. So I'm the anti-sleeve brother. I truly believe that sleeves are a restriction on our rights and therefore should be removed from all shirts. And therefore today I'm going to represent that position.
Free the shoulders.
Yeah, free the shoulders. So that's me.
And
I'm
the
Ben.
youngest
I'm the
brother,
last.
Ben.
Yeah, the younger one, youngest. My first show I went to was the Allman Brothers the day before junior year of high school. It was kind of boring, I'll be honest.
Was that the first? That was actually the first show I ever fell. No, the second show I ever fell asleep in was an Allman Brothers show
You took me to an Allman Brothers show,
at the Beacon, no less.
and it's lucky I didn't have anything sharp in my pockets because I wouldn't be here.
Is the Beacon the one in Waterbury?
No,
New York.
the Beacon's in New York City. It's Upper West Side. It's like one of the most famous. Like the Allman Brothers have to do a run there every year. It was like what they did.
When they got into jam music and straight away from some of their album stuff, it just really went downhill for me.
Yeah, drum solo. The drum solo is where I took a night.
Nah. Yeah,
Well, I mean, you had 30 minutes, so I mean, you had plenty of time to get a quick snooze.
So you saw him in Waterbury, Ben?
What's that?
You saw him in Waterbury?
No, I don't remember where it was. No, but I did see a band in Waterbury, and that may or may not be the next band I choose for next week.
Oh yes, yeah,
Wow.
I remember this. Yeah, I know.
No, I think I know. I think I know what band this might be.
We were supposed to go,
clowns.
were we?
Were we supposed to go? I think we were.
You
I'm so
clowns-
excited now.
You clowns bailed on me. That's
I
how you
thought
remember.
this is. I'm pumped now for next week. Well, I guess we gotta
Yeah.
get through this week. I guess we gotta get.
Yeah,
through
let's get through this week first.
All right, let's do some housekeeping first.
Yeah.
Number one, we need the ocular update.
First, we
Jeff?
haven't even talked about the album and what
Introduce
Jeff,
happened.
I need the color of every member of the band's eyes.
I only know one. Do we know what album? Have we talked about what album it is yet?
Last week, yeah, but it's Siamese Dream, Smashing Pumpkins.
Right. And Ben, this is your album, right? No, Steve is your album. Why Steve did you pick this album?
Fond memories. I used to listen to this album all the time. I feel like it perfectly matched my teenaged angst at the time. Like it was soundtrack for my angst. I listened to it a lot. I remember I didn't buy the album. I didn't have the CD booklet, so I never got to sit down with the lyrics because it was given to me on a recorded cassette in middle school. There it is. For those listening, Jeff just put the album cover on the screen. But it was just loud and it was just perfect for that time of my life.
Gosh,
and I hadn't listened to this album in years. And like a month ago, I was like, you know what? Let me go back and check this out. And I put it on, and the first thing you hear is the drum roll of Jimmy Chamberlain, and then the cars don't and Cherub Rock just kicks in, and that song's undeniable. So those good memories of listening to it in my champagne colored Chrysler LeBaron.
Oh,
While
100%, dude. That was at like the couch. Yeah, those were clutch seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that album, and I hadn't listened to it either. I actually almost picked that album last week. So the fact that you picked that album was really quite shocking, because that, when you hear a couple, like, you rarely do Smashing Pumpkins come up. For example, I
And
was
they're
listening to
unbelievable.
Perry, and they are so good. Like, when it comes on, like, it is just, every time you just gotta crank it up. So if you're in the mood right now, before you just hit pause, throw on Siamese Dream, crank up the first couple songs, and then come back. Because once you hear that, you're gonna want to hear what we're about to talk about. Because boy, is it crush.
Yeah.
I agree. So I'll introduce the album and just talk about some of the particulars with it, and some of the different things going on with the band while they recorded it. So it was released on July 27th, 1993 by Virgin Records. It was Smashing Pumpkins' second album after Gish. They recorded it between December 1992 and March 1993 at Triclops Studios in Marietta, Georgia.
Gish, by the way, was the most sold independent record of all time before they recorded Siamese Dream. That's how they got their contract from Virgin.
No shit. So it was produced by Butch Vig, who was fresh off producing Nirvana's Nevermind album. Like legendary music producer Bruce Dickinson, he makes gold records. Clearly.
Does he wear shoes? Does he wear shoes? Because Steve only listens to albums where the guy wears shoes.
Yeah.
No, it's not so much about the barefoot. It's just that, like, every time the dude's interviewed, his toes are in my face.
Just one check if he wore shoes. He must wear shoes.
Yeah.
Seemed like a kind of a straight-laced dude, honestly. I think he kind of kept the band together through
He
a
was
lot
a
of
drummer.
Yeah, right. So it's very technical. It's like the goalie being a hockey coach, you know?
Yeah, he was he was their father figure. They said while they were recording that.
I didn't hear that, but I could see it just based on the way he conducted himself. Yeah, so we referenced the band was going through some things while they recorded it. I think what set the stage for how they were all feeling was they had immense pressure while they were recording this album, because by all the music critics in the industry, they were kind of labeled as the next Nirvana, the next Pearl Jam. And so it after their first record that did pretty well, they had a lot of pressure to make something that really propelled them into stardom and fame, which after all the stress and whatnot, that did happen. So all the work was worth it, probably.
Corgan actually put a lot of that pressure on them too, because they went and visited with the record execs in LA, and Virgin initially just wanted to re-release Gish. Like, they wanted to mess around with it. They wanted to, like, re-record it, change a couple things, and re-release Gish. And Corgan said, like, the 1,000 interviews that I saw, that there wasn't any singles on that album, and he thought they really needed to put out like their version of a poppy album. And they're like, no, we're going to release Gish. And Corgan said, no, I'm not going to do that. As like a 20-something who just came off an independent label, said, I'm not going to do that. And they're all looking at him. And he goes, there's no singles on this album. This isn't the album that you want. Let me write you the album that you want. And one of the execs stood up and goes, the kid's right. And then they all just laid off and let him go. But in doing that, put a tremendous amount of pressure on him and his bandmates.
Wow.
As that pressure mounted, Butch and Billy kind of decided that at some point he's going to lay down all the bass and guitar tracks on the album, because he could get it in less takes than the other two band members, which we should talk about the band a bit. So there's Billy Corgan, obviously the front man. There's James Iha as the other guitarist, Darcy Retzky as the bassist, and Jimmy Chamberlain.
Retzky?
Retzky.
Retzky. Yeah.
Not Gretzky. Retzky.
No, Retzky. And then Jimmy Chamberlain on the drums, who looks exactly like Cyrus from Trailer Park Boys. If anyone else saw that, let me know.
Question, quick fact.
Yep.
You guys know the color of Billy Corgan's eyes?
I have no idea. Indulge.
Blue.
Didn't we do the ocular update?
We didn't. We stopped, and I want to insert that here. I want to make sure that everyone knew clearly.
It's really important.
We're 3 for 3 with blue-eyed folks. So, Ben, no pressure, buddy. But I hope you did your research on eye color for the next band, because the way we're going, bud.
Serendipity.
Oh yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So, all that pressure manifested into depression for Billy Corgan. He was quoted as like living in the studio, meaning he just was there at all times. They talked about the first couple months they were there 12 hours a day. Then the last 2 months they were there like 16 hours a day. They wanted the album to sound different than all the others, and so they recorded on analog tape. So it was a pain to edit, which I don't know anything about. I don't know why it was a pain, but it was. They would spend 2 days on a 45-second bit of track. So I think there was time constraints, there was money constraints. They had an orchestra on the album, which I think is super expensive. You need like 30 people and you have to pay them all. So I think they have to be on their A game for that. So that was part of the pressure. Other than, Corgan, I think that there was like resentment because he was playing all the bass and guitar parts. So not to mention the drummer was addicted to heroin heavily at the time. And that's why they chose to record down in Georgia, because they thought by doing that, they'd put him in a different place where he didn't have all his connections to buy drugs.
But out of Chicago.
I heard that every LA drug dealer would just appear in the studio and just bring him what he needed. And he would peel out for a couple days at a time. And I think Corgan got really annoyed with him and all the other bandmates because he said, I gave him 1.5 years to be ready for this. And, the fact that they're not ready, it feels like they're slighting him. They didn't come for him. So that added to the depression, that fueled the fire.
The thing about Jimmy Chamberlain is, in doing all my research, he was pivotal to that band. Like his drumming was pivotal to that band. And he actually at one point had disappeared for a week. And Billy Corgan went on a local radio station and said, if you see my drummer, can you send him back?
Wow.
On the radio. That's how crazy it was.
So the album took 5 months to record and went $250,000 over budget. I think the music producers or the executives they came in several times, and they heard him play Today, and they're like, okay, well, they're clearly on the right track. We'll leave for a while and come back. But so all in all, it's regarded as one of the greatest albums of the 90s, I think, by critics. I think there's the genre of the album is bandied about. Some people lump it into grunge. It's not really. Some people might lump it into metal, but I think it's somewhere between the two. It has sounds of both. Like I heard a lot of different bands in this album. A lot of different genres and songs.
Fun fact.
Ooh.
In both interviews I listened to, there's the hour and a half long. What's that guy's name, Don? The producer, Will Beato or something like that?
Rick Beato.
Rick Beato. Okay. So I watched the Jimmy Chamberlain interview with Rick Beato, and I watched the Billy Corgan interview with Rick Beato. And the interviews with this guy are more technical than about like the gossip of when they were recording. Like he wants to know about the guy's drum set and, what skins he has on his drum set and does he muffle his bass drum and all this stuff. But in as a callback here, both Billy Corgan and Jimmy Chamberlain cited Deep Purple multiple times.
I could hear it
multiple times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Question: the album's name Siamese Dream. What is Siamese? Is it a reference Siamese twin? Like what does Siamese mean?
They say Siamese twin in one of the songs, I believe.
And
Tim-
what is the Siamese twin?
A conjoined twin.
It's conjoined. They're conjoined, right?
Yeah, it's not,
Apparently these girls were conjoined, but they're not.
These girls are conjoined or not conjoined? That's what I'm asking.
I think that was like the thing, but they're not. You see the girls on the left, her hand is over the other one. That doesn't work that way.
What you can join at the hip?
and dude, Siamese twin is not the preferred nomenclature. Conjoined twin, please.
Dude. Great point. Great point. I'm not
I
wearing
wouldn't pick them about.
I'm not wearing sleeves though. Convention doesn't matter to me. Here's the back cover for those watching. Still watching. Here's the back cover of what the CD looked like. We weren't printing records as opposed to back in the day with Bowie and Ziggy Stardust. I think at this point we were only really doing CDs. Like CDs were a new thing, right? CDs or tapes. Were tapes in the CDs? Is that what we were?
Tapes were still, because I got this on cassette.
Right. Okay. So
maybe it had been recorded off a CD. I do know that I taught myself to write like this.
Really?
Yeah, the font.
Yeah.
I used that font a lot
Interesting.
in middle school. I was pretty obsessed with this album.
Wow. And then here's the cover of the CD again. So folks just looking so you have some flavor for what it looked like when you unwrapped it after purchasing it at Tower Records. So
do you have the booklet with all the art in it?
That I do not have, but if you give me a minute, let me do my research while you guys
Find it.
Now, how many songs? Now, Ben, were you going to cover how many songs they had and the overall length?
So
it's important to note the length of this one is a beast.
Yeah, it was 62 minutes and 8 seconds, and there were. Do you guys know off the top of your head how many songs there were? Was it 13 or something like that?
I had 15, right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, just keep talking. We don't have to be quiet while we all
It was
count.
13. But anyway, so 4 million copies sold in the US. And the band has 12.1 million monthly listeners, which is kind of a lot.
Question.
Go ahead.
Not as much as Petty.
What? Yeah. Well. Here's the other question. Where does it fall? And maybe we can cover this at the end. But for me, what's important is understanding where it falls in the Rolling Stone best albums of all time list.
341.
No, really?
Yeah, way after Wildflowers.
Who's above it? Who's below it?
Yeah, who's above and below
it? And it's more than Petty, but not as much as Bowie. Sorry, I misspoke there.
I'm gonna have to find out. Hold on.
All right, this is an important fact. This is
clutch stuff.
Right? Yep. Because at least we know that American Beauty is now. Of course, I would argue, and believe it or not, if you compare this to American Beauty, like this, and we'll get to the end, but this album rocks.
I mean, it's a different sound. It's not anything.
But it's a different sound. But it's a different sound than every sound.
You can't even compare.
No band sounds like this band.
Right.
This band, freaking awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Are we past it? Yeah. So all right. Well, let's. Sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
So yeah. So part of the other. Well, we don't need to get back into that. Bottom line was they were under a lot of pressure, and you know what they say is pressure makes diamonds. So, I think while the pressure at the time, probably they lost some brain cells over it. They lost some years off their life. It made the album as great as it was or is. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I mean, yes and no. Like I think the album was obviously it was written before they got into the studio and started recording it. I think the album is what it is, has a lot to do with Billy Corgan and what an intense douche he can be sometimes. But the other thing is,
Sorry, go ahead.
What are you laughing at?
I looked up the album that came before and after.
Right? Did you see that? I just did that too. Holy smokes! Wow.
What do we got?
So after is "Let It Be" by the Beatles. and before Doggy Style, Snoop Dogg.
Right?
You know what? I tend to agree with that one.
Yeah, that's good company. That's good
That's
company.
really good company, right? I'd be good with that. I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
We need to start.
still don't know how what's her name, Fiona Apple, is ahead of all the albums we talked about so far. No one has taken down Fiona Apple.
Right. Who's going to take down Fiona Apple?
That's the question.
Going back, I think, like, going back to what you said, Ben, pressure makes diamonds. Like, Billy Corgan, to write this album after he went in and big dicked all those record execs, he got writer's block, and he couldn't write, and got suicidal and really just down. And what he just, and we'll get into it with the songs, but he decided, I'm either going to kill myself or just get back to writing songs. And he got back to writing songs, and he wrote 2 songs the next day or that day, in the same day. He wrote Today and Disarm in the same day. And those were the first 2 songs he wrote for this album. And I think that experience is probably, the fingerprints of that experience are all over this album.
Absolutely.
That's
So-
why that's great.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, you find inspiration in random places, I guess, sometimes. So,
Yeah.
and he drew on it. So why don't we get into the song, Steve? I think you're going to run through them.
Yeah. The first song is, and we've also decided we're not going to go in depth to every song because we know no one wants to listen to a 3-hour podcast. So we're going to focus on the songs that really resonated with us. I'm going to go through all the songs, but we're really only going to dig into the ones that we feel like we have something really valuable to say. So the first song is Cherub Rock. And it's basically about fitting Billy Corgan not trying to fit in to the box they're trying to put him in musically. This is Billy Corgan pushing back on the indie label that they've been trying to put on the band. It's him pushing back against the artists who, basically sell their soul and basically their art goes to shit so that they can take money in. And this is him pushing back on that whole thing. It's basically the whole premise of the song is all these people are sacrificing art for money. And the lyrics say that. I don't know what did you take from it, Ben?
The 2 things, seeing some interviews, Corgan said that they lifted the intro drums directly from Rush's song Bytor and the Snow Dog.
Yeah.
I listened to it. I guess maybe I'm not a musician, but the other thing I wanted to say was it kind of like set the stage for the rest of the album, where there was just a complete wall of sound when the guitar first kicks in. It smacks you in the face and you become the song because it's so much, it overwhelms you almost in a good way.
I'll say this about them in general, and this song is a good example of it, is they intro into so many of their songs so perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, lots of times it's just a single drum going, lots of times it's like a little riff on something, and then all of a sudden, like you said the other day, they like mastered the drop before dubstep did, and they did. Like they do these crazy intros. They even do outros. Like every song has like an intro and outro, and like 2 to 3 tone changes every single song. Like you'll be listening to it, and then all of a sudden it'll turn on a dime, and everything will change. And they do this in a lot of the songs on this album. It's fucking cool. I love
Well,
it.
this is the song where you actually that people who know it know exactly when it kicks in. Like you're just going, and if you know the song, you're like, if no one had ever heard this song before and you were sitting there, no one would ever know. And all of a sudden you'd be like, boom, and you're like, how did you know that was? And it's like, of course, like for some reason, you don't even count it. You don't even know what's going on. You just, if you listen to it long enough, you just know, like, ready, set, go, bang.
Corgan describes it. He describes it as a wall of guitars because they he does this thing where he overdubs the guitars.
Oh,
There's one song on the album where there's 30 different guitar tracks playing. So you think it's one guitar, but it's the sound of 30 guitars.
wow.
And that's why it hits like it hits. That's why they're so loud. That's why it's so like you could feel it.
It's so
Um,
good.
Yeah, I was listening to my truck in my truck today, and I had it turned all the way up.
Mhm.
And the way the guitars follow the drums, and the drums follow the guitars, and it's just loud. It's
Corgan called that sonic depth in his own words.
Sonic
Yeah.
depth, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
any other thoughts on Sherbrooke?
Yeah, it's not on the album, but I watched a live recording of it, SNL on October 30th, 1993, and it looked awesome. Like it looked like you'd be crying in the audience. It was so good. You know, it looked like it slapped for sure.
It's such a
Right.
different transition from the album we talked about last week. But the album last week was like this slow, like transition away from music, transition away from a band, transition away from pop, like just this slow acoustic thing. This album is like the opposite of that. This is bringing the most energy you could possibly squeeze into the amount of time they have on the album.
Absolutely.
But both sad, both based on like some sad shit.
Incredibly sad.
Like
I
total
think
opposite ways of interpretation.
so.
At the same time, and at the same point in time, they're both in the 90s.
This is a general feeling I have about art. Is the best art is created in the most extreme of moods.
Right.
And if you're fortunate enough to be extremely happy, good for you. You're like 0.1% of artists. But most artists are insanely unhappy. But what
And
it does,
Billy Corgan was no different.
yeah, no, it just creates.
Amazing.
I
It's an
mean,
outlet. It's an outlet, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's what it seems like he did a lot on this album.
Yeah.
So-
Just for our sponsors, right? Blue Eyes, right? They link with the Blue Mountains. My mountains have turned white. I don't know if you guys have noticed. So as a result, I don't know if for our listeners, right? Our sponsor is Coors Light, the most technical, advanced can and bottle currently on the market. So
Man.
my bottle and my mountains have turned white, which is indicating to me it's time to get another. So while you guys go on the next song, I'm gonna go get another refreshment.
You know,
Me
also,
one while you do.
maybe don't mention Blue Eyes so much. I'm not sure we're really going for the Proud Boys demographic.
All right, what's the next song?
All right, next song on the album is Quiet. It's about Corgan's relationship with his parents. And I actually found a website that had a lot of Billy Corgan's quotes from the liner notes in the 2011 remastered re-release of the album. And what he had to say about this song is he said it has a nice adrenaline to it. It's an icy sheen that gets over because it does ask for excessive quiet while giving none at all, which is
That's quite a quote.
accurate because the whole time he's shouting quiet.
Right.
Heavy guitar, shouting quiet.
Yep.
It's loud, but it has really nice harmonies with Darcy. Not a ton, but in the chorus he harmonizes with her, and it's a cool sound. Moving on to the next song, another heavy hitter on the album. I'm sure everybody can picture the music video for this. Song's Today, and this is the song that Billy Corgan wrote. It was the first song he wrote that broke his writer's block. Right after the Gish tours when that happened, after he went to the exec's office. He said being in public stirred up things from his past that he hadn't dealt with. And it made him suicidal. And the song's really, it's the happiest song about suicide you'll ever hear. He's basically singing about the day before he commits suicide. Like, can't live for tomorrow. Tomorrow's much too long. He wrote this during a time he was sleeping on Darcy's floor or living in a parking garage. And he was obsessed with killing himself. Like it's all he would think about. And like I said before, he decided either to kill himself or throw himself back into the music. And this was the first song he wrote. And and it was a song about the day before he committed suicide. And obviously, he decided not to do it. And instead, he wrote this unreal
Really?
song.
Thankfully, yeah, it's their third most listened to song on Spotify with 186 million listens.
Wow.
He says at the end, talking about the tone changes at the end, he just starts going, "I wanna turn you on," and he does that over and over again, and it doesn't match with the rest of the song, which happens a lot in Smashing Pumpkins songs. And he said he didn't know why he did it, but it just felt right and it fits in the song, and he's happy about it. Admittedly, if I could cut it out of the song, I would. But other than that, I think it's an unreal song.
I like the juxtaposition of the soft intro to the heavy guitar. Again,
Do that a lot. Yeah,
the drop is mastered by them. I also like the music video where he's driving the ice cream truck and rolling around on the truck with a bunch of paint on himself and picking up the rest of the band.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Next song is, Jeff, did you have anything to say about today?
No, I didn't. No, maybe tomorrow.
Oh, dang. Next song on the album is Hummer. Me personally, I think it's a shot across the bow at organized religion. He has a few things in the lyrics that kind of hint at that. There's another quote from Billy Corgan in the liner notes of the 2011 album. It said, "To be yourself, you must live your life. To live your life, you must be free." And aside from the first and third stanzas, there's no vocal melody or chord sequence that is ever repeated in the entire song. So talk about tone changes and stuff. The whole song is tone changes.
So to add to that, I have 3 bands written down that I heard in the song. So that corroborates what you just said. I heard Blind Melon, Pearl Jam, and Silver Sun Pickups in this song.
Really? Who is Silver Sun Pickups?
Oh, check it out.
Yeah, they're very good. What's the song called? They're like an early 2000s band, aren't they?
Why am I blanking on this?
Me too.
Come on, guys.
Simple. I can
It's
hear it.
It's another guy who sings like Corgan. He's got like I think the first time I ever heard it, I thought he was a girl.
Wow.
It's heavy guitar.
But then heavy guitar.
Lazy Eyes are their most popular song.
Yeah.
Panic Switch is another one.
I probably do.
Panic Switch is the song you would know.
Yeah. I really like Blind Melon though. Blind Melon is that's.
Me too. I like Blind Melon.
It's sad. It's sad that what's his name? Again, another sad story. Shit. Your next week's album has to be a positive one. We need to talk about some uplifting shit, man.
You're talking about professional musicians. They all live fast, and most of them die young.
Yeah, I'm just Corgan's still alive. Made it past 27.
He is still alive.
Key fact.
I'm sure the residuals from Siamese Dream help keep him happy.
Yeah.
Next song on the album is Rocket. It's the 4th single off the album. It was the first song written for the album. Corgan, this is another quote from Corgan. "It stands as a poem to the past that has just left us behind. We are going places fast, and we can't get there fast enough. Don't forget to bring your fresh nails for the crosses hidden up on the dark side of the moon," which is eerie.
That's some shit.
Yeah. And the end of the song is like a build. It's supposed to sound like a rocket ship taking off.
Okay.
Next song. This is this might be the first song I remember hearing from this band. And this one it's different than the rest of the songs. And it's the other song that he wrote on that day. It's called Disarm. It's Billy Corgan directly confronting his parents over abuse, which is those are the feelings that the public life had stirred up that put him kind of in the funk. It was written on the same day that he wrote Today, which, can you imagine writing both those songs in a 24-hour period? That's unreal to me.
Disarm is their 5th most listened to song on Spotify.
Corgan admitted it was another song about killing himself at a show in 2019. And then his quote is, "I don't have the guts to kill my parents, So I thought I'd get back at them through song. And rather than have angry, 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 violent song, I thought I'd write something beautiful and make them realize what tender feelings I have in my heart and make them feel really bad for treating me like shit. It was banned by the BBC for the lyric "Cut That Little Child." And Billy Corgan was offered an opportunity to rewrite that lyric and stayed true to it and said, no, not a fucking chance. And so it stayed as it was.
And you know what's also, so outside of the dark, miserable lyrics, what's interesting.
Lyrics are unreal.
Yeah, I know, but it's just dark. It's just some dark stuff here.
Yeah, they're dark.
When I hear this song, you just hear Billy Corgan like, "Disarm you with a smile." So he has this voice about maybe a little, maybe an octave lower. Right?
No, you nailed it.
Yeah,
You
I
nailed
get
it. You're spot on.
disarm you with a right.
Keep
Is
going.
Billy Corgan in your
Yeah,
in your house?
I'm getting the dog's digging it too, right? Disarm.
Hey, you're a little pitchy dog. Little pitchy dog.
Yeah, dogs digging that too.
Yeah.
But he's got this voice, and then behind that is this music that's just this heavy
String.
shit.
Yeah.
If we could please remove her from the room.
If the dog came in.
The dog's joined us. Really interested in the podcast. But I think that juxtaposition, which we'll use that word again, right? The juxtaposition is amazing. His voice versus the actual sound they generate is pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah, I mean, not specifically in this song, but this song is,
You don't think in this song?
well, you're talking about him against the guitars, right?
Yeah.
This is like orchestral. This is like
Oh shit! Word number two.
the string arrangement is what this song is known for.
All right.
Bells. There's a lot of bells.
Well, that's what I think what I'm talking about.
So the string arrangement, they brought in musicians from, I think, New York Symphony and some from Chicago, and they were like, all right, what do we play? And they didn't have any sheet music for it. They didn't write anything down, and so Billy Corgan literally like hummed it to him like 5 or 6 notes at a time, and then they played it. I'm like, okay, we'll write those notes down. And so the musicians would write the notes down that they just played, and they did that for the entire song, because I mean, these are like professional musicians. They need sheet music. So they had to, because it was all in his head and he hadn't quite sussed it all out yet. They just sat there for hours and hours and hours, and he hummed it to them. They played it, wrote the notes down, hummed it to them. They played it and wrote the notes down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the use of orchestra or orchestration is like a daring thing to do, and like he doesn't know much about it as far as writing music.
It was unheard of in grunge.
Yeah,
like,
and
which is
that
what
was
they
one
were
of the-
labeled as.
That was, we didn't really talk about it, but a lot of bands, and Corgan has gotten into feuds with so many frontmen of bands. We can talk about that later, but people were like talking, a lot of shit on him because this album had such a high production value. Like it was overproduced in their eyes, and a lot of these other bands were really cut down, stripped down albums. And yeah.
And he said people said it sounded like they were trying too hard. Like why wouldn't you? Like,
When you can, why not?
I mean, I guess the whole grunge thing is like, who cares? Like, you're supposed to act like you don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, but I don't actually think when I think of Smashing Pumpkins, I don't think of grunge. They came out in the grunge time period.
Yeah.
Right, with the Soundgarden and Jane's Addiction and
Stone Temple Pilots.
Like they're all the same time frame. Like it all came out at the same time. Like it was all just this pummeling of these bands that were grunge, and then Smashing Pumpkins, which were just like, it just wasn't there. It was over here somewhere. It was popular. It was still played on that the alternative rock station, which whatever, like 93, whatever, that station that came out, like, holy shit, they're not playing good music on the station because it wasn't Van Halen and Metallica. But they weren't in that same bucket. I don't think they've ever been considered in that same bucket, except for the fact that they came out at the same time and they were heavy.
Yeah, and the rest of the bands that were heavy at that time were doing like this soul yodel. like they all like sang
He
like
had a little bit of
down
that.
here.
He had a little bit of that, but not to the same extent.
The whole yodel.
Yeah, yeah.
Now when
Ural.
I call it,
It's when you can sing the entire song by saying the word Ural the whole time.
man, this is great. The stuff we're learning, the stuff that we're pulling out,
Yeah,
and
so
sharing with the rest of the
singing
population.
He's
So
singing with
yodel.
this high pitched like cracking voice, and everyone else is going.
Yeah, I know, it was great. That's what I'm telling you. Oh, whew, all right.
I call it a cilantro voice because you either love it or you hate it, and it's the same with cilantro.
I don't know that. I've never heard that about cilantro.
Yeah, though there's people. I'm one of them. They have an enzyme
I'm
where
sure.
if you eat cilantro, it tastes like soap.
I'm sure.
It,
I'm
it
sure. I'm sure. I'm
yeah.
sure. Really, is it a diagnosed? Like, is it like? Can we look? What is the what's the technical?
Go ahead, Ben and I will talk. You look up cilantro. It
So-
literally it's a polarizing
cilantro.
garnish.
Wow,
Yeah.
the conflicting
The next song, Steve.
Yeah, Soma.
Yep.
The idea for this was pulled from Aldous
Huxley?
Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. It was inspired by Corgan's loss of a girlfriend in 1992. They broke up, and the theme of it is numbness as a defense mechanism. To
Did he
deal with,
go on to marry that girlfriend?
I don't know.
Isn't it? I think he broke up with his girlfriend in '92 and then married her shortly thereafter, and that's who he's married during the album.
Yeah.
Or to derail you, keep going.
To deal with life stresses. This is Billy Corgan. To deal with life stresses, he tried to put all of his anger in the verses while accepting his share of the blame. Basically the song is comparing love to opium. And this is a quote. Actually, no, sorry. This is a quote from Corgan. He says, "It slowly puts you to sleep. It soothes you and gives you the illusion of sureness and security." And the line from Brave New World that this is based on is, "Love is a fraud, but solitude is a friend you can rely on." Is what the numbness as a defense mechanism, the whole theme of the song came from.
So this was the song with the 40 overdubbed guitar tracks. It was kind of like it had like an anthem sound to me, a very slow building one. And this is the one we keep referencing the way they drop, but this one had a like a real spacey, like floaty bridge that immediately after the drop happens and it just hits you right in the face. So
Yeah, that's what he does. And I got a lyric from the song that kind of supported the theme of it, is that wrapped my hurt in you and took shelter in that pain. And yeah, he's describing a shitty breakup. At least he's not talking about suicide this time.
Right.
before you give the cilantro update, Jeff, oh, I forgot. Go ahead. Sorry. Forgot what I was gonna say.
No,
No
do you
problem.
want the cilantro update?
Yeah.
So genetically predisposed to hating cilantro, studied by scientists. What they say is actually it also is common in communists. So most communists don't like cilantro, while the rest of free society in the world enjoys cilantro. So if you are predisposed to hating cilantro, you're also all with the worker and believe that we should be sharing everything.
Hey,
Is there
Steve
something
Music Production.
Is there something with like where blue eyes fit into that too? Or
no, nothing about blue eyes. It's a totally separate debate. The fact if you have blue eyes, it does not indicate at all whether you're going to like or dislike cilantro.
I'm not
However,
gonna be in the like category. But
Steve is well. I understand that, but Steve is definitely given the beard and the more the blue state look. But I'm just saying, the cilantro, genetically predisposed. I understand, Steve, it's not your fault. You and communists.
So you're confirming. Wait, are you confirming that I'm a communist? Are you confirming that I'm right about cilantro? Or are you confirming both?
I'm
None.
confirming you're right about cilantro, and I'm merely highlighting the commonality you have with communists.
Yeah,
What's the next song?
you're gonna have to cite your sources on that
Yeah.
one.
Just
All
saying.
right, next song, Geek USA. This is one of their critically acclaimed songs. This is the one that contains 30 overdubbed guitars. Or maybe, I mean, there's probably more than one that contain it, but it specifically said that this one contains 30 guitar tracks, basically. It's the guitar solo in the middle of the song, which Billy Corgan actually considered scratching from the song because he thought there was already too much going on. Ended up being rated the 54th best guitar solo by Guitar World magazine of all time. 54th best. Feel free to go
right behind Fiona Apples. Right.
Oh yeah.
What criteria makes it a good solo?
I don't know.
Technical ability?
Admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of guitar solos. Like, I mean, they're cool.
Isn't that one of the things that they hated on in this album, was that it had solos and no one else was doing guitar solos in the 90s?
Pearl Jam had a great guitar solo. What song is that where he just rips it?
Oh, is it Even Flow?
I think so. Yeah, Even Flow.
Yeah,
That
they have
guitar
great
solo.
guitar. Was it Stone Gossard is their
Yeah,
guitar?
Stone Gossard who back in the day was like a hero for guitarists, and
Oh yeah.
he was like, could do no wrong. And that Even Flow, that guitar solo was viewed as like one of the greatest.
Admittedly, Pearl Jam's guitar solos I enjoyed, but typically guitar solos for me, they're cool for a little while, and it's like, yeah, can we get back to the song? Can we just?
That's why a
That's
short,
how
choppy one like they do is like you hear in this album. They're very punctual. They do their job and then they move on. You know.
Yeah. Does my disdain of guitar solos also make me a communist, Jeff?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm just
This song, I heard a lot of the metal influence. It seemed like this was the most, like, as far as like metal, this was that song. This is where that and the double bass. There's a whole bunch of double bass in this, which I liked.
they do the lonely drum in the beginning again.
Yeah,
it's kind of their thing. It was reworked from an earlier track called Suicide Kiss. Seems to be a common theme.
I was gonna Google or Control F every one of these songs and see how many times he said the word pain and make something called the pain-o-meter.
The pain-o-meter.
And I feel like it would have ranked pretty high. This song was where they actually said the name of the album in one of the, I think it was in the bridge. He said, in a dream, something about Siamese,
Yep.
Twins. And then right after that bridge, there's an absolutely filthy guitar drop. So
this song, I noticed, and here's the crazy thing is, like, I loved this album when I was a kid, but I told you I got it as a recorded tape, so I didn't have the lyrics. And when Billy Corgan's singing, you can't understand what the fuck he's saying. I got to be honest. Like,
you have no idea.
You just can't.
No,
and so until we did this and I sat down and read the lyrics, I had no clue. No clue. And this song,
you liked it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You couldn't understand what he was saying in the 90s.
That's why I enjoy this exercise, is that of all the three, every album, after I sat down with the lyrics and listened to it with the lyrics, the next listen of the album, I felt enlightened by it. Like, I liked it. I liked each album way more after I read the lyrics and listened to it.
Well, I called you like 4 days ago and said, I know I picked this album, but and I hadn't done my listen. I hadn't had the time to sit down with the lyrics yet. I had
Was that
listened
2 days ago?
to 2 days ago, maybe. I don't know. Um, I hadn't had time to sit down with the lyrics yet. And so I was like, I told Ben, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say about this album. Like, I know I picked it, but I don't know what I could say beyond, I like the song. I don't like the song. And then I sat down with the lyrics and like, then I started sending you clips of them. I started texting you.
Oh yeah.
His lyrics are so good. And I always say about music, like, if it's a really good song, you should be able to pull the music and lyrics apart, and both of them should be able to stand on their own. The music should be able to stand as an instrumental,
Yeah.
and the lyrics should be able to stand as poetry. And
Bowie!
I mean,
and you can
it's
you
a
can
haiku, isn't that a haiku, Ben? Isn't that a haiku? It's just a haiku. David Bowie.
I think your next little in pod homework assignment should be to look up what a haiku is, Jeff. It's 575. But
sure.
sorry, Steve, keep going.
This song had like really artistic nods to the Genesis story of Adam and Eve. Like the first, I pulled the lyrics up here. The first line in the song is, "Lover, lover, let's pretend we're born as innocents, cast into the world with apple eyes." And then it goes back. The other one is, "Kiss, kiss, all of this, the hiss that we had missed." Apple and snake and stuff like that. I mean, it's through this, it's through the songs, through the whole song, and then it gets down to the end. In a dream we are connected, Siamese twins at the wrist, and then I knew we'd be forsaken, expelled from paradise. Like the whole song is about Genesis, which for once he's not writing about killing himself, which I thought was refreshing. Anything else to say about Geek USA, guys?
I think it rocked really hard.
It sure did. Jeff?
Yeah, I agree.
Next song is Mayonnaise. This is the last song that Corgan wrote the lyrics for on the album, and it like came down to the wire. Like it was the last day, and they said, if you don't have the lyrics for this song, we are not going to put it on the album, which would have been a shame because it's a nice song. But he penned the lyrics on the last day, and then they gave him a little more time to record it. He threw together, what he said is he threw together a bunch of one-liners, but he didn't feel at the time that they had any synchronicity. But because they were so vague, and they were pulled from what he was feeling at the time, it resonated with a lot of people. And then he later said that when he listened to it much, much later, he totally tapped into what he was feeling. He's like, that's exactly how I felt. Like they didn't mean anything to me at the time, but now that I'm reading them, it's like it was getting pulled out of me, and it didn't seem like it had synchronicity at the time, but now I get it. I basically just said out loud what I wrote down. So
Yeah, 5 syllables, dude. You said
The
5
name-
syllables. 5-syllable word.
The name of the song, it was an inside joke with the band, I guess. They unlike, I think it was a Japanese translation of their music, they translated something into mayonnaise, and they just thought it was funny. That's why that's the title of the song.
James Iha actually, I believe he came up with the riff for this song.
Yeah.
And showed it to Corgan in Japan. And that's why like Corgan said that a lot of the songs were Iha coming to him with riffs and playing them, and that was part of why Iha was so pissed off during the recording of this, is because he felt like he had participated in creating some of this, and he was getting completely cut out of the process.
Who is he?
So it's intellectual property.
He's the other guitarist.
No, guitar, sorry. Just for those fun movies.
Yeah. But I I don't know. I like the way this song is just kind of easy to hear. It's a nice, easy to hear song. Um, and calm intro again, and then you introduce the wall of guitars. Um, and there's tone changes all over this song that absolutely just hit the spot. It's perfect. Like it's typical, like, we're going to do this for a little while and then we're going to change, and then we're going to do this for a little while and then we're going to change, and it's in and out of heavy guitar. Um, just I enjoyed this song. Anything, Ben?
Think that.
Blue Mountains, Ben? Mountains blue?
Oh, so blue.
So blue, right? It's just
As
so
blue as my eyes.
yeah, blue. Hey, there it is.
Yeah.
There's thanks to the sponsor, Coors Light.
Anytime.
I have hazel eyes, Jeff. Am I still allowed to talk?
You can talk all you want, just can't play music that we're gonna review.
The next song is Space Boy. Corgan wrote this about his little brother. Said he was the inspiration for the song. Corgan's brother was born with mild cerebral palsy, Tourette's, heart problems, and a chromosomal disorder.
Did he also not like cilantro?
I'm guessing he despised it. That would be my guess.
Sounds like it. Something terrible combination.
The song's about dealing with the frustration of feeling like you don't fit in. And he saw that in his brother. And he recognized that in his brother as something that him and his brother had in common. Although nothing was wrong with Corgan, he felt that him and his brother kind of interacted with the world the same way as outsiders, and that's what this song's about. Moving on, the next song after that is Silverfuck. At the time it was put out by the band, it was 9 minutes long, and it is one of the most frequently played live songs that wasn't a single. And Jeff, you're gonna resonate with this song, because in concerts they go and they play this song and they jam. It's typically about 20 minutes long when they play it at a show.
Pretty short for Jeff.
Yeah, the longest it ever got was 34 minutes.
That's rocking. That's why you go to a show. That's why you go to a show.
Yeah, and Corgan said that when they were doing this, they were fucking around. But he said like the managers, the tour managers and stuff like that would get pissed off, and like they told me like you're gonna affect T-shirt sales with this because people
imagine going to a show, right? That where you're not expecting a jam. Like you don't want a jam. You literally want to hear the album played. Like you just want the album. And then you're sitting there and 20 minutes later, it's the same goddamn song. Like, like how many people wanted to just, I mean, that should come if they played it and they did it properly. It should have come about an hour and 20 minutes in. So everyone going, hey, we're about to go. So if you got to take a bathroom break, get another, you do, you sit down, have a smoke, right? Time to chill. It's almost like drums by the Dead. The Dead played drums so everyone could just chill out, right? Just chill out. Hey, guys, this is you do you, fans, you do you right now. We're gonna stay up here, we're gonna play some music. You really don't need to listen to it if you don't want. Nothing's gonna be going on for a little while. You know that because that's what we're doing.
Isn't that every Fish show?
What?
Is that every Fish show?
No, it's not a Fish, not a Fish show. Not a Fish show. They do well, sometimes. I'm merely saying I think it's a gift to fans, but I couldn't imagine.
He says at the end of the song, what he would do was he would rip all the strings off his guitar with his hand. And he said it's because we're all fucked, and it doesn't matter what T-shirt you're wearing when you figure that out. That's the quote from Corgan.
That's some deep shit.
Yeah, I mean I'd say he's enigmatic. I mean, he really tough dude to read. And he hated the press. Like you watch his interviews and he's definitely adversarial to the guys who are asking him questions. So
had a butterfly hatch.
Who and what?
Yeah, I had a butterfly hatch.
Oh, nice. Is that a monarch?
Sorry. It is.
Your house?
The next song is Sweet Sweet. It consists of thick layers of at least 3 acoustic guitars and Corgan's vocals. It is in sharp contrast to the previous song Silverfuck, both in length, because it's the shortest one at 1:38, and in style, because it's a much softer song. And then to the last song, which I actually think they kind of eased us out. It was kind of like it was a good song to end on. Is now there's a picture of him as he looks now. I think
He looks way more put together in that picture, doesn't he?
he looks, I don't know, like when you look at him when he's younger and he has hair.
He never had hair.
He did. He
Did
did.
he?
Yeah, for the whole, like, he shaved his head for you could see in the interviews for Siamese Dream, like he's got the full head of hair, but it's starting to thin out.
Interesting.
And then Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness comes out, and you see Bullet with Butterfly Wings video, and he's bald like a cue ball. And that's been the look he's been rocking ever since.
Right. All right.
But yeah, the last song, Luna, it was
Oh, here we
written.
go. I got one with hair. You want to see one with hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm making sure everyone's.
It was written in a hotel room in London following a verbal fight with his ex. He called it a beautiful song of fruition, forgiveness, and acceptance. He was so upset by the argument that he almost didn't play the show that night. But instead of kind of, taking his ball and going home, he sat down and wrote Luna. It's basically a song about his relationship with the ex that he had a fight with, which I assume is who you said he got married to.
Yeah, not for long though.
It's not the woman he has kids with?
I don't know. Not sure.
No.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice way to end the album. It's kind of you have all these heavy guitars and just chaotic noise, and it just kind of eases you out and says goodbye. And going back to the thesis of the podcast, they put it there for a reason. I don't think it would hit the same if it was the second song on the album.
Yeah.
That is Siamese Dream, all the tracks.
Wow.
I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys think of it. I mean, obviously you've weighed in on the songs and weighed in a little bit at the beginning, but your general, feeling coming away from it, plus I would assume your rating on a 1 to 5 scale, the Bowie scale of 1 to 5 Ziggies.
The Ziggy scale, right? I mean, Ziggy's.
It's the Bowie scale.
Oh, it's the Bowie scale. Oh, Bowie
It's
scale.
measured in Ziggies.
I see. Bowie scale, but
It's the Bowie decimal system.
the Bowie. Wow.
Well, I like the album a lot. When I first heard it, I was kind of like, it seemed like a lot of the songs were the same thing, But again, when you look at the lyrics, it adds a lot of depth to it, and you start to notice the differences in all the songs. I think Corgan's a really polarizing figure. We talked a lot about his personality and like his quirkiness, I guess would be a light way to put it. That makes him a good songwriter and a good musician. But you see him like in the news, not lately, but feuding with random frontmen of bands. And here's a short list of who he's feuded with: Collective Soul, Soundgarden, Pavement, Sharon Osbourne, Courtney Love, and Anderson Cooper.
It doesn't mention Nirvana.
He dated Courtney Love, by the way.
He did date Courtney Love, and I guess they're cool now. He does not like Anderson Cooper whatsoever, and he walked back some of the feud he had with Soundgarden after Chris Cornell died, which he said he regrets ever doing that. And if he could remove any shred of pain that he caused to Chris Cornell, he would. So I don't know.
Lesson learned for everybody.
I think part of that mentality though is why this album's so good. It's like a big FU to a lot of things. The whole album's about different relationships, and you know, the first song's an FU to the music industry, and about a bunch of them are to his parents and exes and whoever else. So at face value, it's a real crunchy rock album, but if you focus on the depth of each track, it you know it makes sense why it's so well rated by critics, and why it took so much time and effort and money to record. The way I would describe the guitar on the album is a bacon cheeseburger with all the fixins.
Ooh, look at you.
So I think I'll provide my rating for you right now, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it 3.1 Ziggies.
3 point. I thought we were only doing quarter Ziggies. 3.1. Okay.
That's something you did, but I'm gonna stick with
You
it.
only give quarter Ziggies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
if
it's
I'm,
not 5 Ziggies, right? We're talking about 5 Ziggies?
Yeah.
Okay.
all right.
My assessment, because I'm lyrically shallow, this album, when I turned this album on after it was picked, and the next day when I turned this album on, I was cruising down the road, threw it on, and I rarely nowadays, because I'm getting old, rarely crank the stereo. And literally, the album came on, and within 5 seconds, I had it higher than I've had the stereo in probably 2 years, and kept it that way as I listened to the album. And so for me, this album just rocked, and it was a sound that you don't hear. You don't hear that sound. Like what came from that album, the noise, the noise and the music that came out of that album, you do not hear. You don't hear it now. You didn't hear it then. You didn't hear it before. It's very unique. It's a very unique album, which is why I almost picked it when we were before, right? I'm so glad Steve went into it. And so I think from my perspective, again, the less of the three of us, probably the least focused on lyrics. I enjoy Fluffhead, right? The least focused on lyrics. I think musically, this album just rocked, and it was so different. Just the sound, the guitars, the drum, with the offset with Billy's voice, just really, really good. So from my perspective, I'm actually going to give it 4.1 Ziggies. I think it was that big of a shift and that unique of an album, and just everyone who listens to it, it's just going to blow them away.
You said 4.1.
4.1, yeah, 4.1 Ziggies.
Right on, right on.
Yeah, I think that of the three albums so far, I believe this one personally blows the other two away. Yeah. So that's my perspective.
Respect it.
Okay. All right. Well, for me,
I know that maybe I'm different, but I also look at albums a little slightly different than you guys.
hey, you're entitled to your Ziggies.
Right? I got 5 Ziggies. I got 5 Ziggies to hang out. I can hang out how I want. Right?
I respect the shit out of that. That's good.
So for me, this album was it was a trip down memory lane for me, and you know, I mentioned that I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, but his lyrics, now that I'm familiar with them, they completely match the tone of the music. Like they're intertwined. And so I was an angsty kid, and this album was like the musical expression of my angst, and I listened to it all the time and had no idea what he was saying. But then once I figured out what he was saying and singing about and who he was telling to fuck off, I was like, that it still fit with my teenage angst. It like fit perfectly. And you know, in looking at the interviews and watching them talk about their music, I watched like an hour and a half interview with the drummer. I watched an hour and a half interview with Billy Corgan, and these guys talk about it like it's math. Like they're so technical, like they're creative, but they're also insanely intelligent about their art. Like they know everything about every piece of equipment. And it hasn't stopped. Like I watched a video of like Billy Corgan going through his new sound pedal and talking about it, and I didn't follow a word. Had no idea what the dude was talking about, but he cares, and he puts everything into it. And just an easy album to listen to, an easy album to nod your head to. And for that reason, I'm gonna go 3.8 Ziggies.
Wow. Wow. That's
3.8 Ziggies. Yeah, this is a good album.
yeah.
But going back to what Ben said about his feuds with other bands, I'm surprised Nirvana wasn't one of those bands, because one of the stories that came up in the interview, Butch Vig, who was the producer, who also produced
Never mind.
yeah, never mind. Sorry. So while they were recording Gish in Madison, Wisconsin, they were like sitting at a lake, and Butch Vig turned to Corgan and said, "Hey, I have what this album's going to sound like." And he played him like the preliminary version of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And the first thing Billy Corgan thought was that it sounded like More Than a Feeling from Boston, which is funny enough because the concert that Billy Corgan was at for Nirvana in Japan, when everyone knew they were going to play Smells Like Teen Spirit, Kurt Cobain started playing More Than a Feeling by Boston. But in the moment that he heard it, he was sitting there with Butch Vig, and he turned to Butch Vig and he said, "You stole my guitar." And Billy Corgan insists that the sound of Smells Like Teen Spirit, the way they layered the guitars, because Butch Vig looked at him and said, "I guess I did." So he insists that that sound came from him. And I can't imagine hearing someone say that about something that I wrote and am very popular for writing and not being mad.
Right.
I feel like it's funny that, that they didn't have, maybe Nirvana wasn't around long enough to have a feud, but I don't know.
And
3.8
Kurt Cobain, a
Ziggies.
real nice guy.
I don't know. I mean,
That's just like the vibe I get out of him. He just seems like a real nice dude. We'll have to cover one of their albums eventually.
That's
yeah, I
something.
mean,
That's a more fucking dark shit. Excuse me, more
We
dark
can't
shit.
we can't do that again.
it's
Not
kind of
right
hard.
away.
Yeah, let's just hold on dark stuff, Ben. Let's put that in the dark album. The dark folder, right? Let's not go there.
How'd
Dark
the
Side of the
score
Moon.
on the Bowie Decimal System?
So since we've only done 3, I can run through all of them. Third place, 8.8 out of 15 Ziggies is Wildflowers. Second place is this album, Siamese Dream, with 11 out of 15 Ziggies, and Ziggy Stardust, the first album we ever covered, 11.5, still to be dethroned. So maybe it'll be the next one, and I will introduce that now.
Is it Fiona Apple?
I was just gonna say Fiona Apple.
How'd you guess?
It's gotta be Fiona Apple.
No. So while I was listening to Siamese Dream, I wanted to follow it up with something good because I knew it was a good album, and I didn't want to just pick something that wouldn't really flow, but I also didn't want it to be sad. I made a conscious effort to make it something kind of easy to listen to. Steve, you said Siamese Dream was easy to listen to. I don't agree with you at all. I think it was enjoyable, but you really have to, you have to listen. But anyway, we're going to continue paddling around the 90s, and I'm going to choose Motorcade of Generosity, which is Cake's first album. Yeah, 1994.
Nice.
So that's the one.
Good choice. Good choice.
Oh,
And I can throw up any album. I can throw up any album cover, and it won't matter because they're all the same.
Very
Are they
similar.
really?
Yeah.
All the album covers are similar. They got similar with the little crown on it. Yeah, they all look almost the same.
Cake. I've never listened to a Cake album. They have some bangers. They've got some.
But dude, they're great. Yeah, they're very good.
Really,
So
really good.
that was the band I saw that you guys bailed on me.
I remember. Why did we?
I think it was senior year of high school. It was a pretty good show, but it was let's just say we were on the way down when the show was starting. So I was kind of sleepy.
Why did we miss it though, Steve? Do you remember why we missed it? Well, you know what? We'll save that. Hey, that's a teaser right there. We will come back with that memory because it's in here somewhere. I just got to reshuffle it. I got to find it. It's in the filing cabinet. It's probably under like like
I
fifth
assume
grade
I-
math, but I'll find it.
I probably had to work late.
No, that's not the answer. It's in there deep.
Oh, for sure.
That's a good excuse to skip out on memories with your brother, but
Yeah.
whatever.
All right, great. Well, anything else to add? I just want to highlight, right, our sponsor. Thanks to Coors Light and the Blue Mountains for sponsoring the podcast.
Thank you for walking with us on this audio adventure.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, look at you, dude. That's
Yeah,
good.
let's just leave it at that.
All right, we're gonna close it out. All right, boys.
All right.
See
Yeah.
you next week.